Check 1, 2. Check, 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 check 1, 2.
I'd like to call this meeting, the special board meeting, to order at 4:35. Ms. Delgado, could you please do roll call?
Mr. Cano? Mr. Castillo?
Present.
Ms. Flores? Ms. Murillo?
Present.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Present.
Madam Vice President, we have established quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Delgado. Can we please stand to do the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. We will now proceed to item number 2, the presentation of the 2023-24 budget presentation. Mr. Dempsey?
Madam President, or Madam Vice President, board members, thank you for joining us this evening. Ms. Martinez will present our proposed 2023-24 budget.
Good evening. Okay. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey. I bring to you for approval the 2023-24 Educational Fiscal Plan, preliminary operating budget. The proposed budget totals $430,159,158. This includes $216.9 for proposed operational expenditures, $738,000 for operational local revenues, and $6 million for per pupil transportation. Special revenue funds are budgeted at $99.6 million. Capital project funds at $72.6 million. And debt service funds are budgeted at $34 million. The State Equalization Guarantee, or SEG, has been initially budgeted at $155,695,967.72, which is a 7.63% increase from this year's budgeted SEG. Since our budget workshop on Monday, May 15th, the State Equalization Guarantee number was revised. And so that number now includes an increase of $1.6 million, and that is due to additional credits for the K through 12 plus program. In addition to that, there was an increase of $6.4 million, and that was for the out-of-school time activities allocation for a total amount of $160.5 million. So just want to make that note that that number had been revised. The State Equalization Guarantee is $6,241.67, which is a $719.17 increase from this year's final unit value. Included within our SEG is $2.1 million for instructional materials and $311,751. Oh gosh, let me try that again. $311,751 for structured literacy. The 23-24 proposed operational fund expenditures without emergency and cash reserves has been allocated as follows: 69.54% for direct instruction and instructional support, 10.63% for general, school, and central administration, 13.94% for operational and maintenance, and 1.26% for transportation, 0.02% for community services, and 4.55% for facilities acquisition and capital outlay. The proposed budget includes $37.4 million in cash reserve, which is 17.24% of budgeted of the budget, with 5% or $10.8 million budgeted on it for emergency reserves. Operational fund balance available for budgeting at June 30th, 2023 is projected to be $56,085,585. The projected cash balance is subject to decrease for grant reimbursements not received by June 30th of 2023. The operational fund balance includes staffing for 1,701.134 FTEs. Staffing costs, which is salaries and benefits, represent 65.38% of budgeted expenditures, or 88.36% of SEG for the 2023-24. The proposed budget complies with the mandated legislative salary requirements, which includes minimum salary teacher licensure levels for levels 1 through 3, a minimum 6% increase for all district staff, state minimum of $15 an hour, educational assistance minimum annual salary of $25,000, and the minimum annual salary for licensed school principals and assistant principals based on the revised responsibility factor. A step adjustment to salary schedules for employees progressing from a year 0 to year 1. It does create a slight difference between the revised salaries, between the steps on the salary schedule. Salary changes due to 3-tier licensure level are approximately $334,506. The transportation fund initial allocation is $6,065,400, which is $205,377 less than it was this fiscal year. The proposed budget for per pupil transportation includes $5.4 million for to and from transportation services and $627,648 for rents and leases. The transportation fund budget is this year insufficient to cover transportation costs, so the difference will be covered from the operational budget. The proposed budget also includes issuing $9.5 million in general obligation bonds and $2.5 million in ed tech notes. The PED budget documents reflect the PED budget documents reflect estimated amounts for this year and projected amounts for the 2024 school year. Estimated amounts are used to project the June 30th, 2023 cash balances for funds that budget both cash balance and revenues. All requested documents are due to PED by or before May 18th of 2023. The review of the budget by PED and the district has not been scheduled at this time. The Board of Education will need to take action at the June 8th board meeting to give final approval of the operating budget before the statutory deadline of June 20th, 2023. Once approved, the budget will go into effect on July 1st of this year. Questions, comments?
Questions, comments? Okay.
I just have one question. I know you said that 2023-24 transportation fund allocation is insufficient to cover transportation. Do you have the amount for that? Or
Yes, at this time, we project that amount to be about $1.8 million underfunded. And I think one of the things is that when we receive that transportation budget, we still have to pay for salaries and benefits and other costs related to the transportation. So not all that $6 million allocation goes to and from transportation. There are other costs that are not covered.
Any other questions? I just wanted to ask you, in this, there was a House bill for the National Board Certified, right?
Yes.
And that is included?
Yes,
And where?
it is within the budget. So now it's not restricted to just teachers in the classroom, but anybody who has a certified teaching license, board certified.
So that reflects on the, what part? On the
Is-
staffing, operational fund budget?
That is part of the staffing, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. And then I have one other question. All requested documents are due in by May 18th. So what documents would that be?
If you go through the booklet you have in front of you, there are some documents which is an upload. Basically, the reports that are on this booklet are uploaded into OBMS, which is the operating management system used by them. There's also documents that certify that we've met the requirements, the minimum wage requirements, and any statutory regulations. And there is also the calendar document. So all the documents in your booklet do get submitted to PED. So those are the documents we're referring to.
Which they were submitted today. Well, not
They
today,
will
but
be.
with
Once you
it.
approve, I'll submit.
Okay. Any other questions?
Madam Vice President, board members, I'd like to note a very specific, there's a lot in this budget, and I applaud Ms. Martinez and her team for putting this together. This was a unique year. You're going to hear probably some conversations around out of school learning time. And you'll see within, we can talk about the 910B5, which is the budget form. You can see where those dollars got generated. We qualified for what's called Tier 1, and you'll see some of those dollars. And it's gonna take us probably a couple years to get used to this. That's very new to us. And it's strongly tied to our calendar. There's one piece at our meeting next week. We'll talk about our calendar and some little final adjustments to make sure we're aligned well to capture those Tier 1 dollars. There may be a conversation I'd like you to understand. I'm not saying we have to do this. I'd like you to understand what it might take in the future to get to Tier 2 dollars. That's additional funding. It's going to come down to days of the school year. You got to add days, and I'm not suggesting that I'm recommending that. I'm just saying I want you to understand what it might take to get there. And then there's a very important project to me that if we worked very hard with our partners at the county and Mr. Macias and his team to possibly get SROs into our schools. This budget reflects a $3 million set aside for that project specifically, and it's reflected on page 14. It's going to be called
Other contract services.
other contract services, I'll give you the fund of that. It's on page 14. It's the 11,000 fund, and I can't remember those objectives. 55,915 is the number on it. But that's obviously an important project to us and an important project that we want to try to see through.
So, Mr. Dempsey, when you say that there's that amount of money, that is for the SROs, so currently we have that available. All we need is to be able to supply those SROs, correct?
Madam Vice President, board members, what it would take is a partnership with an MOU and a willingness on everyone's behalf to work on those. And I know I have that with our county manager. And there's some still work that needs to be done, but we're gonna, as I've said time and time again, we're gonna stay at the table because we believe this is the right avenue to take.
Okay, thank you. So any other additional questions? Yes?
I'm sorry, I'm just
Go
going
ahead.
back and forth. Okay, going back to the second page, for the minimum annual salary for licensed school principal, where does that leave us with being in, like, are we at a level with Las Cruces Public Schools? Are we, did it went up? I should have known that, but I don't have it.
The minimum requirements for school principals is based on a $70,000 and the responsibility factor, but Gadsden did go a little over. Overall, the principals did receive a, let's see, more of a 10% increase, so it is a little bit more. I don't know how it compares because Las Cruces Public Schools probably also working on their budget calendar, and it wouldn't be fair to compare it to last year's or this year's because they're also, so I wouldn't be able to speak to that, but I can tell you it was an average of 10.32%.
And that will be 10.3%. And is that the 4% plus the 6% that is added, or this is like on top of the 6% salary increase to all districts?
It is, what we did is we met those responsibility factors, and then I believe, I know it was at least a 6%, but there was an additional, I can't remember what that percentage was, but overall, it was a 10.32% on average increase for all assistant principals and principals.
Assistant principals as well, okay.
And that was to create a difference because the level 3 teachers are so close to our principals.
So on the unit value, what are the potential of that decreasing? I mean, I know that this time it increased quite an amount. So what are I don't know what statistics show if there's that possibility.
Since, the last 5 years, I haven't seen a decrease in the unit value. The last time there was a decrease, I want to say was, I think it was 16-17 or 17-18, I can't remember. So the possibility is there. I don't think it's that common because I think when they budget for the for the unit value, they try to be conservative so that nobody likes to see a decrease, right? Just like we don't like decreased bars. So I don't expect that be a big decrease, but I think it all depends on market conditions and the financial state of the state. But I don't think it's likely, but is it possible? Yes.
I'm just saying because the increase was a pretty good number, right?
It
I
was.
think it's pretty historic almost.
Well, the last, I'd say 3-4 years have been, I mean, if you look at the percent or the amount of the salary increases that the district employees have received over the last 4 years have been historic compared to, the prior 4 years before that. So it's been a good run. I hope we can sustain it and continue.
Great. Okay. So, anything else? No?
Sorry, another one.
Oh.
So
Ms. Padilla.
you mentioned $3 million for the SROs. Is that the cost of the contract projected? That's what we're thinking about?
Madam President, or Vice President, Ms. Murillo, when I initially had the conversation, I believe, and there's some different terms here, and I want to be a little bit careful, but this was what Sheriff Stewart had projected a total budget would cost.
Okay.
And so that's how I established that number. I want to caution a little bit, though. This is a long-term project. So it will take time to build, if approved and if signed and everybody agrees to it, it'll take time to build that staff. And then there's always be, just like any department, people that leave and people that come in. So there's always a little bit of a movement. And it's a multi-year project to build that staff up. But if we had 5 officers by the end of next year, I'd be thrilled. And there's more than adequate dollars to do that.
And 5 officers per,
No, that would be total. That would
Total.
be total. Because like I said, the idea of, let's just say if our goal was to have an armed officer at every campus, which I think that probably is, that's a multi-year project. That will take us multiple years to build that. So if we can get 5 this year, add a couple every couple of years, over time, we'll be able to sustain that, I think.
What is the difference between having the SROs and versus having private security?
So the issue along the lines of private security come down to just really a rural area such as our district, getting private security even to agree, it's been difficult to even get quotes from them. And the quotes we receive, and then we look at the training, pretty big concern on those components. One of the things that I like about using local law enforcement is, truthfully, their children, their families are part of our community. Many of their kids go to our schools. You can't, that kind of buy-in and that kind of support, you're not going to get in private security. So I think it's a win-win for the entire community and a great partnership. There's a lot of potential here.
I believe we have President Flores on logged in, so I don't know if there's any questions. No, none? Okay. She's not? Okay. All right. Thank you. Anything else? No? We're good? Yes. Thank you, Ms. Martinez.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move to item number 3, public input. Ms. Delgado, do we have any?
Madam President, we do have open forum.
Okay, we do have one, and it is SRO Budget and Summer Internship Program. Mr. Fernando Macias, if you could step to the podium, and I will read a little information here prior to. So the board discourages personal attacks upon staff, personnel, or any other persons in attendance or absent by individuals who address the board. Any person making public comments shall be solely responsible for the content of his or her comments. The board neither adopts nor assumes responsibility for any comments made by individuals during public comment. Presenters are cautioned that statements or representations concerning others that are false and damaging to a person's reputation may subject the presenter to civil action for defamation. The board prohibits personal threats and the use of obscenity. Such speech is not protected and will not be permitted. The board further prohibits disruptive conduct. Disruptive conduct will not be tolerated. Any violations may result in the removal from the premises. The board also offers formal channels for board consideration of concerns and complaints, including involving individuals. Policy KE, public concerns and complaints. KEB, public concerns, complaints about personnel. KEC, public concerns, complaints about instructional resources. And KED, public concerns, complaints about facilities and services are provided by the board for disposition of such concerns and complaints. Thank you. We normally do that for when there's going to be the open forum, and so you have 5 minutes, and I will now turn it to President Flores. Oh, I shall continue. So 5 minutes, and you want to take the time, please? You got it, Danny? That's okay. Okay.
Thank you. After reading that statement, I'm too intimidated to actually make any public statement. But as a public figure, anyone can make negative comments about me and can say anything that they want. And I've heard it so many different times that it doesn't bother me anymore. So, but I certainly am not inclined to make any negative comments that would bring any controversy to this meeting. I'm here to talk about two topics. One of them really directly impacting your budget. Another one more a request for help because it affects students across the Gadsden School District. For your record, I'm Fernando Macias, and I am the county manager for Doña Ana County. And in order to enhance my reputation here, I am a graduate of Gadsden High School. So the first comment is related to the SROs. The school resource officers. I really want to encourage you to take a very bold, strong position in advocating for school resource officers. I have been working now for over 8 months, probably longer, with Mr. Dempsey related to an actual memorandum of understanding. He has drafts that have been sent, and we are in an ongoing dialogue related to what would be an appropriate memorandum of understanding between the county and Gadsden School District. I certainly will not sugarcoat it. There is an important partner in this process that is the sheriff, again, who, at least at this point, is not supportive of the concept of school resource officers. But I want to tell you that the memorandum of understanding for approval is on this next agenda for the Board of County Commissioners, which will be next Tuesday. Certainly the board can take action. I'm anticipating, and I know that Commissioner Diana Murillo is present here as well. I know that in general, among at least the majority of the board, there is very strong support for school resource officers. And again, I think that Mr. Dempsey has already explained to you the parameters, at least initially, of looking for 5 school resource officers. I do want to suggest to you that having certified law enforcement officers in your schools is far better an option than relying on just private security. Not only are they more highly trained, but as school resource officers, statutorily, there is a requirement that they receive a certain level of training that is unique and special to school resource officers. So in terms of liability, in terms of being able to respond to issues, I believe that having law enforcement in the schools, and I think that some of you are certainly familiar with my background and the interaction with law enforcement during the course of my career, I support having school resource officers. So please support the budget request related to this matter because it sends a clear message to the public, to public officials, the need to progress and come to an understanding between the county and Gadsden. The second topic, very quickly. 2 years ago, with a partnership with a public education department, the county put 450 high school students through a summer internship program. And again, this applied to the Gadsden School District, Las Cruces Public Schools, as well as Hatch. Last year, we were able to put 850 students, including about 350 to 400 Gadsden students, to work. That is 850 placements out of a total statewide that this program was available of 2,100. So out of 2,100 students that were placed last summer, 850 of them were here in Doñana County. Let me tell you the challenge and why I'm here. Because this year, we had over 2,000 applications from students throughout the county. And am I out of time?
Please continue.
Okay, thank you. Since I'm the only one here to give public input, we can be a little bit flexible. So again, very quickly, out of those 2,000 applications, we believe that we'll be working with anywhere from 1,800 to 1,900 students. 683 of your high school students have applied for positions to work. And again, let me just very quickly, this is working at $15 an hour, 20 hours a week, a 6-week period or a maximum of 200 hours, or so a student this summer can basically be making $3,000 within a relatively short period of time. Not only does that help the student, but it's at a level that it can help the families as well, so it is critical. So the breakdown is that out of the Chaparral High School, you had 165 students apply. Out of Gadsden High School, 152. Out of Santa Teresa High School, 253. Out of Desert Pride, 39. And out of Alta Vista, 61 students. The challenge, especially here in Gadsden, is in the Gadsden School District, is finding the appropriate placements. So right now as we speak, although we have 676 students that have applied, we only have 190 slots today. So within the next 10 days, we have to come up with the 493 slots that we will need. So we have been granted a certain, not exemption, but support from the Public Education Department because they know how successful this program is. We can place, as long as they are students within the Gadsden School District that attend Gadsden, any of these schools, we can place them on the Texas side as well. So students in Sunland Park could be working up at the Sunland Park Mall. Students in Anthony, New Mexico, can basically be working on the Anthony, Texas side. I want to appeal to you to basically use this information and the contacts that you may have throughout this community and on the El Paso side, and I'm not talking about the east side because transportation is always an issue, but getting from Sunland Park for a student up to the mall isn't that difficult. Getting over to the State Line restaurant wouldn't be that difficult. But I want to encourage you, and I have shared this list with Superintendent Dempsey, and I'm going to ask him to share it with all of the board members, that basically gives a listing today which of the partners in the community, governmental entities, private business, nonprofit organizations, we can place I was on the phone with the diocese earlier this morning so that they could find placements that might help out at the churches. There's very little limitations in terms of where we can place students. You should also know that we hired coordinators who will be working with individual students to oversee their commitment to their position, to counsel them, to mentor them as they go through this summer program as well. And I can tell you that some of your employees who are off for the summer are going to be working for the county basically as coordinators to oversee students as well as the individuals, their supervisors in the placements that they'll be at. So again, I want to encourage you because we really want to be ready. My personal commitment is that not one student who has applied from the Gadsden School District won't have a placement to work and be able to take advantage of this program. So thank you for allowing me a little bit of extra time. And again, I do want to ask you anything that you can do, any information that you can provide, if you could funnel it over to Superintendent Dempsey, and that way he can provide and will do the follow-up to nail down the number of potential placements throughout the Gadsden School District and hopefully on the west side of El Paso. Thank you again.
Thank you, County Manager. Greatly appreciate all that information, and if you could forward that to us, that would be appreciated. So now I turn it to President Flores.
Good evening, everybody. I apologize. I was late because I was doing work where I work. But anyways, would I be allowed to ask questions? I was following on my phone.
Sure, Madam President.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Martinez. So my first question would be, and I did see some of my colleagues asking similar questions, but I just want to make sure that I have an answer. And so for our teachers, I've always been curious, so teachers can get more on top of their salary if they're doing after-school programs with the Jump Start and then NMSU. Does that extra money count towards their retirement or not?
If it's money that's paid by the school, by the Gadsden Independent School District, yes.
Okay, so like NMSU money, no.
NMSU, no.
Okay, and then
I don't know, I don't think so. Let me.
Okay, so you can follow, you can look into that.
I can look into it. I doubt it, but I can find
Okay.
out.
Awesome. And then I believe Ms. Rodriguez was asking about the salary differential for National Board Certified Teachers. And so, because I did watch the recording that took, or not the recording, the live streaming that you all had on Tuesday. And so I did notice that you mentioned some House bills, but House Bill 181 was not mentioned. And so in our budget, in the preliminary budget that I have before me, is that also included? And I know that you'll have to send, I guess the names of the people that have these certifications, and then the state will send the money, but is this part of the preliminary budget?
It is. It's included in the preliminary budget.
Okay. And then I also wanted to make sure, because it should be called a salary differential, not a stipend. So from what my understanding, I wanted to verify with you, is the salary differential also counted towards the individual's retirement?
Yes.
Okay. And then I just want to piggyback, I think somebody, I'm not sure who it was asking about administrators' pay. So, let me see. So there's the multipliers based on whether you're elementary, middle school, or high school, correct? And then I believe the base pay is 70,000?
Yes.
Okay, so are we taking into consideration like the years of experience for the principals? If so, how is that calculated?
If you look at the salary schedule, you can see that there is a difference between years of experience, so yes.
Okay, where's that page?
Let me see. It's towards the back of the booklet,
Okay,
and it's not numbered, but it's salary schedule H. So if you start at the beginning of the salary schedules, you'll start with letter A, and if you make your way to salary schedule I, it's looks like this,
okay,
and you can see.
okay, found it. I guess my next question, thank you, is, let me see. So yes, the more years of experience, the more pay. And I believe I mentioned that actually they received a 10% increase, is that correct?
An average of 10.32%
10.3.
increase.
Okay, so I just want to, I guess I'm going to take the opportunity to advocate for administrators because, and I get it, that I think based on legislation is how you are determining the base pay with the multipliers. And so I just want to make sure that, we always take into consideration that, like you had mentioned, what I was listening is that probably this year, I'm going to assume that probably there was some APs, assistant principals, that might have been making less than level 3 teachers. Is that correct?
No.
Or no, everybody was
No,
making?
because, well, no. If you consider those summer pay for teachers when they're back, that may be the case, but that would be additional compensation based on extra work,
Okay.
not on their annual contract.
Not the annual, so you're talking about additional compensation such as jump start, such as an MSU. Okay, and I get that, so I guess the point I'm trying to make is we really need to think about, always, based on that role of responsibility, that our administrators are compensated for the work that they do, because they do, and teachers, you deserve to get paid too. And I think for the first time in our careers, I must say, we don't do it for the money, but for the first time, we are getting paid as educators in the classroom, what we probably should have been paid a long time ago. But I'm also, when I'm saying I'm advocating for the administrators, because they take on a greater responsibility. And so I just want to make sure that we always take that into consideration. And if we can go, above maybe a little bit more, that I think they would appreciate it. Why? Because, the reality is, money talks, and how we make decisions for, we have families and whatnot. And so because it's for the first time being in the classroom, I mean, you're making good money. So maybe some individuals who at one point wanted to pursue being principals or administrators, they're going to probably double think whether they should get out of the classroom. And so I just want us to always keep that in mind. If there's any way that we can give a little bit more, if you're asking me how much more, I don't know, but always keeping that in mind so that we're always, I want to make sure that pipeline of teachers that one day will be administrators, that they're not double thinking and saying, pues, here they're paying me well, which is beautiful. I don't want them to leave the classroom too, but we need good leaders. And then eventually, sir, like how you want your administrators to one day be district leaders. So I just wanted to throw that out there, is that definitely keeping that in mind, and if there's any way that we can compensate them a little bit more other than what the state is requiring of us, I think that would be highly appreciated by them. See. Okay. And
Madam
then,
President,
yes.
what I might just add to that, and these are really rough numbers, and anytime you get into this, you start looking at each year, but I'll just give you just a little framework here. Level 3 teacher at 30 years on our proposed salary schedule would be at 78,374, okay? First year elementary principal, year 1, 87,500. So $9,000 difference, okay?
That's the principal, correct?
That's for an elementary principal. Now,
What
when you
about
get to
eight?
secondaries, you're at 101 for middle, and then high school, 115. And so you're seeing those jumps and those increases in those admin staff. And then last year, I'll just remind the board, excuse me, in previous, one of the struggles we had was when you came off of campus, many times, and members of our leadership team live this, they took a cut in pay because they wanted to get some different experience. we no longer have that component. Now you have what I would consider a true career ladder that allows someone to begin as an administrator, and then as they get opportunities to move into central office, they're taking increases all along that way. So I suggest that we've built that career ladder. I like your point, though. What I took from it was we want to hang on to that because we want people motivated to stay with us. Previously, people would leave us because they wanted an opportunity but couldn't take a pay cut. Well, now there's no reason for them to leave us. Now they stay with us, the hope that I have. So that's my note.
Yes, that's the point I was trying to, because also we don't want to lose them because of the proximity so close to our neighboring school district up north. And so we got to take care of our own so that we're not having people jump ship. And so, you know, because that would be years of experience lost in our community. So please always keep that in mind too. And yes, teachers, I will always advocate for you too, but, you know, also our administrators deserve that. Okay, questions on other topics? And so, let's see. So as far as that internship, based on what Mr. Macias, because, am I allowed to ask that or no? No, because that's open forum, never mind. Okay, never mind, I will ask that, sorry. Sorry. No, you cannot. I am sorry.
We will, Madam President, board members, we will get that information to
Yes,
you. And
I
we'll work-
apologize.
We'll partner with our county administration to help get our students placed.
Yeah, I'm still like, yeah, came in here running, literally. Okay, so sorry about that. As far as, okay, let's see if I can ask this question. So embedded in our proposed budget is the SROs or no?
Madam President, there is, and board members, there is absolutely $3 million set aside for the SRO program.
Okay, so my question then is, if the board's will is to approve this evening this preliminary budget, I mean, obviously, it's not a done deal because, as the gentleman had stated, we need to work with Sheriff Stewart, and so that doesn't mean that binds her to it either, correct? She'd have to be willing to work.
Madam
Together.
President, board members, with approval of this budget, I think that signifies Gadsden is very serious about this project, and the dollars are available to utilize them. The next step of that would be establish an MOU, which Mr. Macias and I are working on in dialogue. And once that gets established and we agree upon it, we're going to then need our sheriff to support that piece. So that's where we're at in this process, and we'll continue because I truly believe it's a worthy project, and I think this is the right route to go.
Okay, so is this, I'm just going to ask, is this like another strategy to get the wheel rolling? Because it's been a while, and I'm going to say that it's kind of frustrating. So is this like a strategy to hopefully get the sheriff on board?
Madam President, it could be viewed as a strategy. I think the word I would use is, and I've said this all along, is I think this is a need in our community. And as a leader, I think Mr. Macias and I would agree. We have a responsibility to try to meet those needs, and we'll continue to stay at the table, and any leader that wants to remain at that table, we'll work with them.
Okay, and I guess could, at the table, obviously it'd be Mr. Macias, yourself, would we be involved too or not?
Well, you absolutely could be.
Okay, and then as far as, you know, it's kind of sad to only see one person, you know, addressing the budget, but this is where I would ask those parents that are out there that if you do believe in SROs, that we need to hear your voice, and the commissioners need to hear your voice if we're going to work this collaboratively with our sheriff, because I want both parties to come together and do what's right for the community in a respectful manner. So, okay. I think that's all for me. And thank you for answering my questions now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No. That's what was my mistake. Any further questions, comments, or concerns? So we are on item 4, which is an action item. So do I hear a motion?
Madam President, I make a motion that we accept the approval of the preliminary 2023-24 budget for submission to PET.
Mr. Castillo has made a motion to accept our action item this evening, which is a preliminary budget for our upcoming 2023-24 budget. Superintendent Dempsey,
So recommend.
is a roll call necessary here? Yes, okay. Ms. Delgado, can you please take roll call?
Mr. Castillo?
Aye.
Ms. Flores?
Aye.
Ms. Murillo?
No.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously, 3-4. And do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Mr. Castillo has made a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. God bless you. Bye.